Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. So the recall of MPs Act 2015 has struck again, this time against a Conservative MP. Chris Davies knowingly falsified invoices when he was setting up his constituency office after he won the 2015 general election. There's no suggestion he was motivated by greed, but it's the likely result of an inexperienced MP trying to get around a complex system of expenses and breaking rules to simplify it, not to get more money, but just to get things done more quickly. But although it's not nearly as serious a crime as that which recalled the former Peterborough MP, he did knowingly do it. It is illegal. It was a conviction under the Parliamentary Standards Act, and as such, permits constituents to sign a recall petition. And of course, when you only need 10% of your constituents to do that, it is going to happen all the time. I mean, an MP can be elected with 30, 40% of the vote. Sometimes it's more. But you're always going to have at least 10% that really don't want you to be MP, and they will sign it at the drop of a hat. So basically, MPs don't break the law. So the Welsh constituency of Brecon and Radnorshire is going to have another election. It would be considered a fairly safe Tory seat based on recent electoral behaviour, but with the Brexit Party around, as well as some other things, could they take it, or will they split the vote and let someone else in? Will Labour voters turn out, or will they stay away due to Brexit ambiguity like they did in Peterborough? What's going to happen with the Labour Brexit position when the election happens? Will they get their Brexit stance sorted by then? What about the Lib Dems? It could be really interesting. Now, in the last general election, Chris Davies won with 48.6% of the vote, which is, fairly hefty. That's actually a pretty comfortable majority because the closest rivals were the Liberal Democrats on 29.1%. Labour were much further behind on 17.7%. Now, from a tactical point of view, I'd be thinking Labour should back out and support the Lib Dems on this one, or at the very least, not put up a candidate themselves. I wouldn't normally, but the prize of reducing Conservative numbers in the House of Commons is precious. For every vote they lose, should a confidence motion be issued, there are fewer rebel votes needed to bring the government down. The government are already perilously close to not having a majority for such a vote, even with the DUP. And Corbyn wants his general election, so really he should be thinking in those terms. And the Liberal Democrats could win. They won the seats with 46.2% of the vote, in 2010, when the country were voting Labour out, but not exactly getting behind the Conservatives. In fact, up until 2005, after the Liberal Democrats were punished by their supporters, of course, for enabling many of David Cameron's policies in government, they had won and held the seat since 1997, when Labour last came to power. So a resurgent Liberal Democrat Party can definitely win. They've definitely got the support base there if they believe in them. Perhaps even without Labour stepping back. But it would create momentum towards a public vote if the Liberal Democrats won. Or, quite frankly, a definitively Remain Labour Party. But Labour are too far behind even historically there. Of course, Labour won't do it. Corbyn doesn't. It's not just that he doesn't think strategically, but he isn't interested in momentum towards a public vote, although he's increasingly having to get behind it. He doesn't like it. But as in Peterborough, the Brexit Party are also going to be at hand. Now, this will split the vote with the Conservatives. It is difficult to imagine that the voters would get behind the Conservative Party and return a Tory MP. Regarding the EU referendum, now it did vote leave, as did Wales in general, but it was not by a large margin. In fact, it was pretty much the same margin nationally. This constituency voted 51.9% to leave. Not a big margin. And therefore, you would think not necessarily a massive number of votes for the Brexit Party. Labour have no chance. The last time they even came second in a Westminster election there was in 1985. Couple that with the desertion of Labour votes over their Brexit position, and there is no mass appeal for the party in this region. As I said, it could be different if Labour get fully behind a public vote and Remain, which would be awesome. But then thinking about it tactically, that might just then split the Liberal Democrat vote further and let the Brexit Party in. It's all very messy, but not a problem that has to be addressed just yet. A by-election isn't automatically held just because an MP has been deposed or removed or died or whatever. A writ has to be issued by the House of Commons. Now, as it is the Conservatives who've lost the seat, it is for them to begin proceedings to have the writ issued. They are unlikely to do this quickly. Yes, they've lost the seat, and of course that's not doing their majority any good, but if they don't believe it can be recovered, they may decide that an empty seat is better than one occupied by their opponent. They may also believe that once the new Prime Minister is installed, that confidence would return to the party, and more specifically, that the country would renew its confidence in the party. Yes, I know that's ridiculous. I never said MPs were realists. All very interesting, but it seems patience will be required. We'll have to see if anyone raises it in the House next week. This has only just happened after all. If not, if no one really makes an issue of it, then it'll probably mean that there's no appetite for an election until after the summer. Of course, if it's taken too long, it's not the Conservatives that have the yay or nay on it, it's the House of Commons. There's nothing to stop others in the House of Commons beginning the proceedings. Parliament can vote on it as normal, but that hasn't been done yet. They may be waiting to see what happens when the next Prime Minister is confirmed, assuming they are. After all, if there were to be a general election much sooner than I anticipate, then there'd be no need to hold a by-election. It would just be settled in the general election. So if I were to guess, and it can only be a guess because I don't know what senior MPs think of the situation, and nobody seems to be asking them for me. Get on with it, journalists. I'd say that probably nothing would happen before the summer recess. I would say that people are waiting to see who's going to be the Prime Minister. When we return in September, the writ will be issued, possibly for the end of September or beginning of October. That would make it much more interesting because that would ramp up the Brexit significance. People would know where the various parties stood by then, at least you'd hope so, and parties could decide their strategy. Or they could decide to go for a vote of no confidence in the new Prime Minister and put every seat in the country up for a third election in 5 years. Remember, with the loss of that seat to the Conservatives, there now needs to be one rebel fewer voting against the government. The new Prime Minister has to tread extra careful now. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for further content, and until next time, I'll see you later.